I am live and ready to go on Tuesday the 15th, I think it is, of June. I have, I'm using my own Wi-Fi tonight, so I'm sincerely hoping that it works okay. Our neighbours, who's I was using their Wi-Fi, they've gone, they've moved out. I can't believe it. So hopefully, you must shout if everything is okay. It looks as though I've got my phone in front of me again, and it looks as though I'm live, although nothing much is happening now because I'm still faffing. But let's see how this works. I'm using my oh no, I can't do that. I've just I can't put my volume on because then it's just totally freaky. Anyway, there I am. Today, now it's just been Boat City over here. As you might have noticed, I did so enjoy making that little video last week. When was that? Was that Friday night? Saturday? Thursday? I can't remember. Anyway, it was just, I was out for a walk and I just heard, so I'd finished the first lot of them, and I just heard the sale of the century in my head because on the, now this is very much a 1980s UK thing, so apologies for those of us hopefully joining us from further afield. But it was really just, they had a conveyor belt where they had all their gifts, all the prizes that you could win going along to this music. And I just saw these mice all in their little boats sailing along to this music. It was brilliant. Anyway, mice. I know I've been making lots of mice. And I never know who wants to be made until the last minute. And they really left it close to the bone tonight. Penguin. It's going to be a penguin. Going to be a wee sailing penguin. He's going to be sailing on this gorgeous little red boat, which is made, of course, by Rachel Pettitt, who is just phenomenal. And yes, I think by the end of her making all the mouse boats for the Squeak show for June, I think she was like, "Oh my God, what have I done? I can't believe I said yes." Anyway, so penguin, right? So penguins now, because these are mini penguins. Mostly my penguins are made with 10 grams of clay. Normal mice made with 6.3 grams of clay. Normal bunnies standing, 10 grams of clay. Sitting, 9 grams of clay. So it goes on. Got little recipes. I used to write them all down, but I've not needed to do that for a long time. I do that with some of my new ones, actually. You know, for example, I've now got a little list of like recipes. That sounds horrible, doesn't it? You don't really want a recipe for mice. That's just mouse stew. But yeah, so like for the Easter chicks, I will make a note of how much clay I need, which cutters I use, all the rest of it. Now, it's not usually something that I need to do, but because I normally do remember, but I've made so many of them. I was speaking to somebody about this yesterday, and it's quite phenomenal how many I have made, and I do lose track of them. I have lost track of them over the years. Anyway, I've no idea whether anybody has joined me. I'm not seeing any comments so far, but that may be nothing to do with any of you and all to do with my internet. So I shall just carry on and hatch this little penguin. And hopefully that I shall just be speaking out loud, and hopefully you can all join me at some point if you feel the wish. So I now have a little block of 3 grams of clay. 3 grams. I mean, it's very strange when I'm, I kind of think in grams now, and I can more or less sort of weigh up how much anything is up to 100 grams. Anything above that, I always have to use the scales. But I've got my, what Enrique calls my dealer scales. I don't know if they've ever shown you them. It's digital scales, basically. And these, I when I put it on, let's move it to one side, it only goes up between 0 to 100 grams. You can't put any more than that. So there's 3 grams. And it's exactly 3 grams. Not that I'm OCD or anything. Honest. I'm really not. Anyway, 3 grams of clay. And I need to condition him. I've had the air conditioning on, very bad for the environment, I'm sure, but very good for my environment, so that's okay. Because it's been so lovely. I really hope that the weather's good where you guys are, because it's been just so nice up here. I've been on my own for the past week. Enrique had to go to Mexico last week. I've not said anything to very many people about it because it was it was all kind of very last minute. His mum was not well, had been taken into hospital, and he's over there just now, and she's in peace. She passed away on Sunday night. Now, I mean, I don't want this to be a downer of a film, because it's not actually. Enrique is very much, he celebrates her life, and he's there with his sisters, and he was there when she passed. She fainted. She was discharged home from hospital, and she passed out and never woke up. So if there was, she got her wish. She wanted to be at home. She wanted her family around her, and that was her wish, and her wish was granted. And that really, I think, is the best that we can ever ask for. So he's still out there. He's, just making sure all the arrangements are taken care of. I mean, she's not been in the best of health for the last sort of 4 or 5 years, not since we met actually, 4 months after we first met. That was my first trip out to Mexico. I mean, because she'd had a stroke, and he rushed out there to see how she was doing. So it was, yes, this has been expected. So please don't be sad, because Enrique is really celebrating her life. She was a wonderful woman, very strong. We couldn't communicate very well because she didn't speak a word of English, and I have only recently started to speak more than a few words of Spanish. But she was happy that her son was happy. And yeah, she always liked a good laugh, and really she had quite a body sense of humour actually. It was, sometimes Enrique blushed. So he's thinking of all those happy memories. And I mean, his dad passed away sort of 15 years ago, so his mum's been on her own for a long time, and now she's back with her husband. So I'll be looking forward to having him back again at the end of June. He's coming back, hopefully. In the meantime, wee creatures, wee penguins will continue to appear and keep me very busy. In fact, if anything, this sounds really, I don't want to sound this, gosh, how do you say this? I enjoy spending so much time making the wee creatures. It's not that I don't enjoy spending time with Enrique, I absolutely do. But it's actually quite nice to have as a bit of a, the way that I used to work was, when I was working from the house in Broad Lane in Leeds. And sorry, I'd forgotten to wipe my roller, so it's just put black streaks on the orange clay, of course. Anyway, yeah, so I was able just to work whenever I wanted, for however long I wanted, and I didn't have to sort of think about, being home by a certain time, which I really enjoyed. And it's actually been quite nice to come back to just being able to carry on until the wee creature that wants to be made has been made, instead of breaking off and going back to it. But anyway, I do miss him, and I can't see any of the comments, I'm sorry. Well, actually, I will. I'm going to break off and go and read them, because you're all lovely. So we've got Lorna on the call. Hello, Lorna. We have Anne-Marie, and we have Emma. Oh, goodness. And we have Sally Ann. And thank you, Lorna, for both of you, for your thoughts. It's just, yes, he's where he needs to be, and that makes me happy. So at some point, hopefully myself and his daughters will be able to do some kind of video conference call. She's already been to the funeral parlour, has been cremated. I think they do move quite quickly in Mexico. But there will be some kind of funeral service. He did ask if I could come along, but I think really to fly out to Mexico for, a short one, well, I'm sure that the festivities, the celebration of her life will no doubt go on for a very long time. But I think really it's best if we can do a video link call. That's probably going to make more sense than trying to get over, because it's an awful long way. It sort of takes 24 hours each way, door to door. It's a long way of travelling, I have to say. So anyway, so that's me. So I'm not, this isn't something that I need to trumpet about the place. I'm telling you because it's obviously it's kind of on my mind. and I don't want it to get in the way. It's just lives are to be celebrated. That's how Enrique sees it. He wants to celebrate her life, not mourn her loss. And he's there for his sisters, and that's really wonderful. I'm now cutting out the feet. That's what I'm doing now. As I carry on, my hands are kind of just doing their thing here. I have now made a penguin body, if you can see him. And what do I need? I need my little heart cutters for his flippers for his feet. So how is everybody anyway? I mean, gosh, it feels like a long time. Well, it's been 2 weeks, I suppose, since I last did one of these. But it's always good to sort of hear the news. So, but of course, I can't read the replies. So I'll just keep blethering away. But actually, one thing which I did over the weekend, which was it was fun. I'm now working in earnest on the Squeak Show calendar scenes, because they're the photographs are going to have to be taken like pretty soon, sort of by the end of August, so that they can be ready and sent to the printers in September. So that's the idea. So the printers can then prepare and get them all ready, printed up and ready to be sold. When do calendars normally go on sale? I'm never entirely sure. I'm kind of aiming for October to make sure that they go out in time for Christmas for overseas. But maybe they don't need to be quite so soon. I'm not entirely sure. But that's my thinking anyway. But so the weekend was. And I never know who wants to appear. As I say, it's kind of, I just sort of listen and see who wants to show up. So I didn't have oh goodness, do you see that? I've got black streaks of clay through that white. That's such a pain in the neck. Anyway, so I don't have a schedule. I mean, maybe it would be better if I did have a schedule of work and when I'm going to do which calendar scene. So I've done January's scene, of course, and now I've done October's, and I can't show you October's because it's a surprise, and I want it to be a surprise and a grand unveiling when the calendar is printed. This clay is manky. Oh, that's a pain. I'm going to have to get some clean clay. This is obviously a bit of scrap clay that was masquerading as clay that I could use. Speak amongst yourselves while I go and get a wee dot of white. So here we go. Right. But one thing I know, you now know the reason why I've been a bit quiet over the weekend. But I've so enjoyed. I really always enjoy when you post pictures and little memes, and George the mouse of the wood pile, I think it is. And all the otters that Melissa posts are just fantastic. Otters are just wonderful. They have such a personality, they really do. Anyway, I now have clean clay, and this is me trying to make his tummy. So I'm just rolling it out onto the thinnest setting. I'll probably have to stretch it a bit because he's so small. Everything has to be done sort of fingertips and very much more delicately. Wait till I get to the beak. Goodness me. I mean, it's a bit kind of like, oh, you penguin, a sailing penguin? Really? That's what you want to, oh, okay. So, and then it's having to sort of plan around that because, as I say, they're the ones who know. So I'm just measuring the best cutter for his tummy because I'm also going to stretch it into more of an egg shape. So that'll do nicely. And then I can sweep this away. I do have a cup of tea actually. I hope you are all settled and comfortable and well provisioned with beverages of a warming nature. That would be very good. Oh, and another thing which I did last night actually, my roommate Hayley, wonderful, if you're on the call Hayley, hello, or if you're listening to it later, she's a Reiki master, but she's just recently started doing healing sound sessions with her friend Louise, who I know as well, and she's lovely. She's really, the pair of them together are just amazing, and just sublime. She has crystal singing bowls, and the sound from them, the sonority, the harmonics, just incredible. So that was a wonderful way to relax last night for about an hour. I don't know whether anybody has anybody here done a sound bath? So it's just sound and vibrations, and it's just very, very relaxing. Um, and yes, with koshy bells and sound sticks and just things they just transport you basically. It's just wonderful. So thank you, Hayley, for that. That was a very special experience too. Right, we now have Belly of Penguin has now been made. So I will now cut his wings out. Oh, that sounds... I think every time that I talk about the various steps that I have to take, they always sound a bit sadistic and a bit unpleasant and a bit kind of instruments of torture-y. So trust me, they are quite happy. They don't feel any pain. They just think they're going in for a sauna when I put them into the oven. So they're not getting like totally cooked or anything. That just sounds a bit grim. So just conditioning the black clay to cut out some tiny wings. Now, so I'm not sure whether I've ever done a demonstration of one of the tinies. This is not the tiniest that I have made. I think the tiniest I've made has been the 2 gram mice. And I don't know whether I've made a 2 gram penguin. Maybe the 3 gram penguin has been the smallest penguin that I've made. But everything is just shrunk down to a much smaller size. So here is, this is the wing cutter that I normally use, but because I need small wings, I basically just need one and then cut it in half. And that's then 2 wings, but just half size. So I shall do that just now. Now, because this is the first for me for a while of making small penguins, so you might have to bear with me while I make sure that I get... And I haven't made a tiny sailing penguin before, so you heard it here first, folks. Because as well as all the mouse boats that have been requested for the Squeak Show, for the Collectors Club, they're all in hand. I have also asked Rachel to make me, or she has made me, an extra 20 boats so that I can do this sort of thing. So this will ultimately, I think, be popping into my shop along with some other wee sailing creatures of various kinds. I thought it was going to be a bunny tonight. I really did. That was my feeling, but again, they 5 to 8. It was like, oh no, it's got to be a penguin. It's nuts, I have to say. So yes, not really able to prepare too much in advance. Now this is going to be the wing that's holding onto the actual mast itself, and this is going to be the saluting flipper, I suppose, rather than a wing. And actually, instead of what's it called again? Extender medium. I keep forgetting the name of that, and I keep telling you about it. Then I forget that I've told you about it. Anyway, so that's going to be the other wing. But now I need to get his beak made. Now this is where it all gets terribly, terribly intricate and quite difficult to do. So this is, I shape the beaks by hand. So I will cut out a very small circle of clay, and I may have to trim it down again. So this is my smallest Kemper. These are brilliant little cutters. They're super. I know Caroline has just recently invested in some different cutters, which is like a pen with an interchangeable cutter at the tip. It's a brilliant idea, absolutely brilliant idea. But I really have my tried and trusted shapes. I think they'd be brilliant for cake decorating, but not so much when I only really use a circle, a heart, a flower, and a teardrop. They're the 4 which I invariably use and don't do anymore. So what I'm doing, so I've cut out a circle, rolled it into a ball, and now I'm squeezing it with my fingers like this. So my fingertips form the beak shape, but obviously it's much smaller than I would normally make them. So it's all real fingertip stuff without trying to sort of squish the shape or squish it out of shape too much. And I think that's going to be too big even, actually, would you believe? And I've got some black clay. How typical, how typical. Right, so I think what I'll do, I'll measure it. Well, let's see. We'll stick it on his face. That is too big. So what I have to do now is cut it down again. And I usually just use my tissue blade and cut a sliver off the edge. And then reshape it again because it's now been pushed out of shape, but now it's even tinier. I'm sorry if you can't see this. I can barely see it. What do you think of the camera position? I'll check my comments when I finish this. But I think I've tried it a little bit closer and a little bit more so you can actually see when I'm peering over my glasses and holding it up very close, you know, like 6 inches from my face, which is basically my workspace. That's kind of where I do it. Right, that's a better size. It is very small, but you will see when I put it on, it's still just a fraction too big, but I think I can cope with that. So I usually just place it so I can get the positioning for the eye sockets, and then they can be marked in. Comme ça. There we go. And then, and this is where the magic happens, isn't it? This is where they start coming to life. Now, because they're all miniature, I'm now using 2mm bead diameter beads. So again, it's you know the routine now, don't you? Where I am trying not to bash the camera as I pick up all the tools. So what I'm doing, and forgive me if my mug is in the way again, is find 2 beads which are the same size, and you would be so surprised at how much they vary in size. So, but you've really got to be sort of, oh actually that was a quite good guess. that rarely happens. Oh well, I'll take the win. I'll take the win. So, I can't remember what I was saying. There's a surprise. Squirrel moment. Here we go again. Right. So I am putting now, giving him eyes, and then he looks much happier and much more like a penguin, which is always lovely to see. Oh, right, there we go. Right. Actually, yeah. That slipped out. This happens sometimes. It slipped out of the tweezers. The tweezers marked the penguin eye just ever so slightly. So basically, I now have to try and blend it in. Do you know, it doesn't happen very often, but when it does, it's like, oh, for goodness sake. So then it's just, but actually, this is giving me a chance. Everything happens for a reason. Everything's always working out. I really do believe that. And it makes for a much happier life when you have that belief. Whether you're right or wrong, it doesn't matter because you just feel better in knowing. So yes, that gave me a chance to actually flatten his nose a little bit more in preparation for the beak. So that all was great. Because once I've put the eyes in, then I'm trying to sort of shape the head. It's a funny one actually with the penguins and the bunnies to an extent as well, and the otters I suppose, but anything where I'm putting something extra on to the face, like a beak or face chops, or that's really all I do, isn't it? I only put face and beak, no, face and beak chops. What is going on in my head? My goodness. Multitasking, that's something which I cannot do. I used to think I could multitask. Forgive me if I've said this before. I used to pride myself. Oh yes, I can juggle 3 things at once. No, I can't. I only thought I could. Could I? No, absolutely not. No way. So I have learned my limitations, but it does mean that you get a few more squirrel moments when I'm making than you would otherwise. So we now have beakless penguin. Oh yes, so that's what I was saying. So whenever I'm putting on something on the extra on the face, whether it is a beak or whether it is chops, like the cheeks and the teeth for the bunnies and the otters, then you've got to kind of make the front of the face flatter than it would be. You can't have it sticking out too much because it's obviously got to accommodate a tiny beak or chops. And if it doesn't, if you don't do that, then it sticks out too far and just looks weird. And we can't be doing with weird penguins or bunnies or otters. You know, they've got to all look in proportion. So that's why it kind of, and then because you've now then effectively got a flat surface, oh, that's pretty good. Then you've got to make sure that there are no edges, that all the curves are curvy. Right, now this is where you can't, if you press too hard, you squish the beak, basically. There's that, you may not be surprised to know that. So, and then of course, he has his smile, which is just, and I do need to concentrate for that, so do forgive me not saying anything there. Right, so we now have tiny smiling penguin. Yay! I do love them. They do make me laugh. They really do. So, let's just see. Oh, look, he's already getting very excited about going sailing, but he needs his feet. Because what happens if he decides to go for a swim and he doesn't have any flippers? And see, I worry about these. This is the sort of thing that keeps me up at night. You know, forget about bills, all that sort of thing. No, it's if penguins don't have their flippers and when they're going into the sea, they've got to be able to swim properly. So this is me just trimming the little heart shapes, heart cutters. I'm sure there's a proper word which escapes me momentarily. So again, extender medium just to be able to fix them in place. And having them at the 45-degree cut means that they sit very nicely under the body rather than just, you know, they come up, they sit, they nestle as feet, which is always better than just having a foot that's stuck on. Don't you agree? Right, so they're the little flippers. So they are so much smaller than, well, this is a 3-gram penguin compared to a 10-gram penguin. And of course, if you see them side by side, you would think, well, 3 grams, it can't be that much smaller. The difference is huge. And actually, this is why it's very good for me when I'm doing lots and lots and lots of small creatures, as I am doing at the moment with the mouse boats or the sailing mice. I have to break out occasionally and come back and do a full-size mouse, because otherwise it just feels really, really odd. You know, working at a small scale, that becomes my new normal. So then I have to sort of like adjust and go back to full size. It's just weird. And then I feel like I'm working with giant mice until I adjust again. So it's important, I think, for me just to occasionally break out when I'm doing tiny mice and do a couple of big mice, which is why it's very helpful to be doing the guitar mice, the guitar creatures that I took requests for. When was that? At the end of May? So I'm kind of working on them at the same time, and that's actually a really good way of doing it, because it means that there's some variety, and the wee creatures they don't have weird shape issues with me. Anyway, he's now saluting. I don't know whether you can see that. He's either saluting or he's peering off into the distance. I never quite know which way. Now, then, because they need to be fixed onto the boats, really. So the idea is to make sure that none of his bits stick out over the side so that they don't get in. Now, if I just stuck him there, his beak would hit the mast, and that would be no good. And this is just exactly the same with the mice. And you know, the mice, given that here's a little grey mouse on a boat that I made earlier today. But look, they're both made with 3 grams of clay, but doesn't the penguin look an awful lot smaller? It's bizarre how they do it. Anyway, the mice are just larger than life, clearly, even when they're only with 3 grams of clay. So what I have to do is I have to kind of shape him to the mast. And the best way of doing that is to make sure that he's well positioned where he is. And as I say, this is the same method that I use for the mice. though they usually stick more into the because their feet are further apart, so they can do it. So I'm kind of just going to bring him round the side of the mast, so he's kind of hanging onto it more. You see how that is just. Oh, I do love them. They're so clever, these creatures. They really are. They know what they're doing. They know what they want to do. So by curving him round, he's now peering out along the mast, going, ahoy there, where's the land? Where can I go swimming? And then the last thing is to attach his other wing to curve round the sail. Now, then I use the hairdryer to fix them in place. Basically, just to start the curing process but not complete it. So I'm sure I've talked to you about the hairdryer. Well, it's not a hairdryer. Okay, it's not a hairdryer. It's a heat gun, but I just call it the hairdryer. And it just basically means that the outer shell, the outer layer of the creature, then is in place. I don't think actually I need to do it with the penguin. The idea of doing it for the mice, or the reason I have to do it for the mice, is because they then have to stand up with their tail, but the tail is so fine it softens. So if I just took that mouse off as it is now, and I baked him without having pre-baked him or pre-hardened him, the tail would slump, the mouse would fall over, and it would all just end in tears. It would just be horrible. So by hardening the paws and the tail, that gives him stability, so he can stand in the oven and wait until he's fully cured. So it's like a part curing process. But the good news, and actually I've just realised this, you might think, well, of course, duh. But the penguin, because he doesn't have a tail that he's using as a tripod, of course, he does have a cute little tail. I'm just shaping his butt here. Well, it's not his butt. Well, it's his tail. So anyway, yes. So he doesn't need to be blow dried. That's good. That works. I could do to make sure that his flipper, the flipper that's holding onto the mast, make sure that was firmly in place. But to be honest, when they come out of the oven and when I fix him onto the boat with glue, then I can always just apply the heat, which will soften the clay very slightly, and then it'll be back into shape, if that all makes sense. So now I'm just tidying him up, giving him a bit of a wash, and what's the word? There's was it spit and brushel? No, brushel and spit. There's a term, and I'm sure one of you kind people will tell me to save me kind of going off and looking up and dreaming about it and waking up in the middle of the night. Because when I'm not waking up in the middle of the night worrying about penguins not having their flippers or their feet, then of course I'm thinking about the word which I couldn't think of during a brew and a blether. Anyway, ta-da! We have a penguin. We have a wee sailing penguin on one of Rachel's gorgeous boats. So he will be baked tomorrow. He will be cured tomorrow, let's say that. And he will join a few other non-mouse sailing creatures at some point. And it's now 8:25, and I can just scoot over to my desk and I can catch up with some more of your comments, which oh my goodness, there's so many of you. Thank you so much. So, and Sarah has asked 23 minutes ago, this is when I last saw your comments, is this a penguin? So yes, indeed, I'm making a sailing penguin. Gosh, I will go over all of your comments later, because otherwise you all said something 20 minutes ago and then I'm replying and then you'll be going, what are you doing there? The one thing which I can show you just before I sign off is, you remember the absolutely gorgeous little climbing mouse on the needle felted climbing mouse on the ladder, which I treated myself to recently? Well, of course the mice had to see whether they could come in as well. And I managed to find a wonderful artist on eBay who makes tiny fairy ladders, and she very kindly agreed to make a little mouse ladder. Now, this is a prototype. We're speaking about, yeah, I think it needs to be just a little bit smaller because look, he can't quite get his paw up there, and he's sort of leaning. He's not curled over the rung enough, but it's really just too cute, don't you think? Don't you think? So these will hopefully climbing mice, climbing bunnies, climbing guinea pigs, climbing penguins, of course. There's going to be some little ladder creatures which can hang up wherever you want to hang up. But I just so this is new. This won't be like I'm not going to post pictures of this until I've we've sorted out the prototypes and organised a proper size. But I wanted to show you because he's hangs up from my lamp and it's so cute. He does make me smile, I have to say. Reminds me of a little bit of some of the Halloween mice, which I can't tell you about. It's not frustrating at all. It's so exciting. I love it. Anyway, right, enough blethering. I have not touched my tea once again. I'll have to sort of neck my tea, as they say. But thank you so much for coming on the call. Thank you for all your lovely wishes. And I know that Enrique will be very touched by that. So please don't be sad. It's she lived a wonderful life and she's with her husband now, and that makes me very happy. And I know Enrique feels the same way. So I love to you all, and I'll see you in the group tomorrow, I'm sure. Okay, right, I shall wave at you.